All right, what is up, y'all? We are live. Oh, gotta turn some more lights on here. Get a little more light. All right, so it is a gorgeous day outside. It was like really gray and drab this morning, and I work in a windowless office. So I stepped outside, and it was really bright and nice and warm, and I was very surprised. And then I got pulled into a late meeting, and which, you know, whatever, it's my job. But and then I was like, you know, I said that I was going to stream tonight, and I feel like I kind of want to go out for a walk, but at the same time, I kind of don't. I kind of want to stream. So, decision was made. I'm going to stream. I'm not going to go out for a walk. But anyway, here I am. What are we doing tonight? So tonight we are going to be doing some mold making. In the past, I've shown you these Artisan keycaps that I make. We're going to be making a mold for these. We're going into mass production on these. Obviously, right now I only have several of them. I have molds for them. They are these molds right here, which when I use these molds, I can only make 3 of these keycaps at a time. And in order to get these into production so that I can get them into your hands, I need to make a mold that can make more of them. So I want to make a mold for probably somewhere between 8 and 10 or 8 and 12 of those keycaps. So what we got to do tonight is we got to trim them down, make sure that they look clean and that they are like a good quality, so that way we don't have to do that much work on the back end to clean them up for sale. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make a mold. So mold making, it is the mold supplies that I use. I use a particular type of silicone. I will show you what silicone that is. And then I have a very particular style, a way that I make my molds that is it's efficient. And it takes a little more time, but in general, it makes a high-quality mold box that's easier to get good keycaps from. I can show you one of them right now. So one of my molds actually just recently bit the dust, but this one here, this one is one of my... Oh, this one I didn't clean out last time I used it, so I should do that. But this is the one that I use. I use Mold Star 30, which is... Yeah, Disco Frog says Mold Star 30. Yep, that's what I use. So what I end up doing is the method I make these molds with, what we end up producing is kind of like this. This needs to be cleaned, but you see how it has this lip, this edge that goes around it? And this kind of fits inside here like that. And so what that does is that lip prevents it so that the resin doesn't go leaking out everywhere. And so that's the method that I use. And it works really well, but we're going to do something a little different this time around. Problem is, the last time I made these molds, you can see how it has this weird indent around here. This is from the double-sided tape that I use to stick the keycaps down. And the problem with that is it makes it kind of difficult to line up the mold box when I close it, because you can see it obviously has the negative of that on this side. See that lip right there that goes around here? So sometimes I have to like kind of jiggle it, move it around a bit to get the to make it actually fit in place, and sometimes it doesn't work. And so what's been happening is I'm trying to get this lid to come down on it, and it doesn't work very well, and then I end up getting like malformed keycaps and stuff because there's air in there, and the air gets into the keycap, and so this mold isn't great. And then another mold that I had actually for the other keycaps, the other keycap mold that I had that I made around the same style, same time as this one, that one actually had some issues as well. So the problem that one was having was that the silicone would stick inside the keycap itself, and so when I pull the keycap out, over time it just did damage to the stems. And the stem, if you aren't aware what a stem is on a keycap, the stem is this part right here. And so what was happening was the stem mold was getting stuck in that cruciform right there. And so when I was pulling it out, it actually damaged it. So anyway, we have a couple things that I want to do to try to fix that. But the main thing I'm focusing on today is I'm going to make these guys into a mold so I can start mass producing these. And we got a couple of things we're going to do. So in order to make that lip that I was showing you, we have to make like a platform for these keycaps to sit on. You make a platform, and then you do the first part of the mold pour. So we got to make the platform first. And how we're going to do that is we are going to use hot glue. So I just got this hot glue gun right here. We're going to use that. We are going to use an X-Acto knife. It's another tool I need to have out. So we got this X-Acto knife, which actually I need to replace the blade on this one. The blade on this one is old, and it is kind of dull. So let me get the blades out. I can also use a craft knife, which actually is probably a better choice. Yeah, actually, I think I am going to use my craft knife instead of an X-Acto knife. X-Acto knives are very nice, but the problem with them is they get dull very quickly, and yeah, they just get a little too dull too quick. So my craft knife is in the other room. I'm gonna go grab my craft knife real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, so different people call this tool different things. I call it a craft knife. And what this is it's just a kind of like a box cutter almost, but it has like pieces you can break off of it. Baxter Curry is saying, oh, are those keycaps on the left? These guys, you talking about these? Yes, these are keycaps. And that's what I'm going to be selling these very soon. I don't have an estimation of time when they are going to be sold, but it will be soon. So keep your eye out for those. So this is what I was saying here. This is a craft knife, and you can break off the tips of them. So we're going to do that. First things first, we're dealing with sharp implements. So I wear safety glasses so I don't damage my eyes in the process. And like I said, I could use an X-Acto knife, but I do want to use this craft knife. So what we do, I'm just going to break off one of the tips. And you just kind of hold it down and pop it off. And there we go. Now we have a fresh tip. It's super sharp. Okay, now what I'm doing first is I want to make sure that the keycap itself is in good shape. So this one right here, let's adjust the focus here. Baxter Curry, thanks for the support. Yeah, it is kind of cool. Oh, let's see. I'm sorry, I missed a couple chat. So we got someone in stream. We got 10 people on stream right now. Nice. But yeah, so... oh. Okay. I'm going to adjust the focus on this here real quick. It's kind of hard to tell when it's focusing. Okay. There we go. No, one closer. Okay, so this is what I would consider B stock. Because you can see there's a little bit of damage right here on this corner. Whoop, this corner right here. So that right there, that little bit of damage means that I wouldn't really be able to get a good mold from that. So that's going to show up in every single keycap I make. So you want to have ones that have very good, very clean shapes to them. Like this one here. This one is very clean. I mean, it's a little dusty, but in general, it's very clean. It has good edges. It's very smooth. So this would be A stock, and that's what we're going to make these molds from. So let's get going with that. And I am going to clean a little bit. I'm going to clean these keycaps just a little bit on a few of them that do have some rough edges and stuff, and I just want to sand those down and get them as clean as possible, because then later on the back end, when I'm pulling these out of the molds, I want to have as little work to do as possible. And so in order to clean them up, I'm going to use some sandpaper, and I'm going to use some angle cutters. So these are angle cutters here. You see how they have, like, they're flat on one end? That's what we're going to use to clean these up. So right now I'm just looking for things like little bits of like little burrs or anything else that is going to reduce the smoothness, overall smoothness of the keycap. Because some of these are just from basically like when the molds I have are not perfect. So some of them produce less than perfect keycaps. They're close, but not exactly to my level of perfection. Because as some of my friends and some of my viewers know, I am a perfectionist, and so I will just keep working on something until I feel like it's up to my standard, and that can be extremely irritating to both me and my fans. That one needs to be sanded. This one's looking pretty good. There's a little bit of a minor issue there in this corner, but that's actually going to be covered up. So that'll be fine. This one hasn't been clean at all. Okay, so this is a good example. So what we have is a little bit of flashing around the edges. So that's where the mold seal doesn't quite seal perfectly. And so what ends up happening is the resin finds whatever crack it can find, and it creates these weird little lines. And it's a seam, so you can see that in almost any injected plastic toy or anything that you may own. You'll see this little line that goes around it, and that's from the injection molding. So what we're doing is we're just going to go in and just going to clip off any pieces that stick out. Just going to go around with these angle cutters. We're going to clip those things off. And there's not a ton. This one is actually a pretty clean mold, so there's not a lot, but it's enough to basically, be noticeable. And I want it to be as clean as possible, as smooth as possible, because then I don't have to do as much work cleaning it on the second run. And actually, now that I look at it, this one might not be a good example, because there's a couple flaws on the bottom of it. But we'll see what happens after we start sanding it down. As we sand it down, it might end up looking fine. So earlier I posted a giveaway. I highly encourage you guys to apply for that giveaway. That is for a custom painted, hand-painted TKL board I'm running as a giveaway in collaboration with my friend Carly Toboggan, who she streams on Mixer. She streams Fortnite. So it is a Fortnite-themed keyboard. And it's pretty damn cool, if I do say so myself. I painted it, I programmed the lighting scheme and all that. So, I mean, I like it. Alright, so now I've got this one, just like, I kind of cleaned the edges on it, but the next thing I need to do is I need to sand down the bottom of it to kind of remove any of the burrs and stuff on the bottom. So what I'm using is 220 grit sandpaper. And you just go on there and kind of use a circular motion. Remove any dust. And it just makes it flat. So now it's got a nice flat, sharp, flat edge. And then just make sure there's no other burrs or anything sticking out. And this one looks pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. And a lot of these have already been cleaned. I'm just doing a second run. I want to try to get 8. That's my goal. 8 of these in one go. So let's sand this one down, because this one's already clean. This needs to be sanded. Oh yeah, that looks great. Okay, so this is a really good example. This is a good one. You can see the edge. Oh. The edge is very clean. I'm trying to get a good focus. Let's do this again. I wish that there was a quick focus ability on this, just to immediately go to the camera control and get that focus up real close. But, all right. So this is a good example. You can see it's very flat on the edge, very sharp edge. There's no like holes or anything anywhere that are sticking out. It's got a very clean side. So that is a very clean looking one. You want to make sure you get only the best things. You only want to use your best examples, you know, as the... You only want to use your best examples for making molds, because any kind of defect that your master has is going to show up in the keycap, the final product. So you want to make sure you're using your best ones, so that when you make molds of them, they're all replicas of your best work. Okay, so this one has a couple burrs on it, so we're just going to cut those off. And they're not too bad. They're just very small. We just want to get those off of there. And that one's looking pretty good. All right, so we got a good one here. All right, so far we have 7. So I said I was shooting for 8. We got plenty more to go through to see if we find any other ones that are perfect. So this one, it looks fantastic. This is an orange one that I'm really proud of. But the problem with this one is the bottom. There are some like bubbles that formed in the stems there that it kind of bugs me. So this one, I don't know if I can really clean this up enough to make it sale worthy, or, you know, mold worthy. So I don't know if I'm going to use this one or not, but I am going to clean it up, because this I would still consider B stock, and I might be able to sell it, because there are people out there who aren't perfectionists like me who might say, you know, that's not that bad, I'll still buy it. So we're going to clean this up. All right. So in terms of cleanliness on this one, you know, the sides were fine. Not many burrs at all, but definitely had some issues at the bottom. So we're not going to use this one for mold making. Okay. This one is another one that has a good potential to be a mold. It's got some flashing around the sides, some burrs. So we're just going to go in, we're going to remove the burrs first. Now, for flashing, usually you can just kind of pick some of it off with your fingernail or whatever. You can also get some very fine sandpaper and sand it down, but you want to make sure that you're using really fine sandpaper, because it'll show up, you know, the sanding marks will show up, and you don't want them to show up. You want it to look as smooth as possible. So I'm just going to clip those burrs off, and then I'm going to use a finer sandpaper than this 220 to clean it. This one's got a few more burrs on the bottom than I thought it would. So this one needs some TLC. Okay. Let's sand that bottom down. Okay. That's the bottom of it's looking fantastic. All right, so now what I use for this, for sanding the sides, is I use this is a 1000 grit sandpaper. This is meant for wet sanding, so I actually do use a little bit of water on it. Just a little. You don't need much. And then just kind of go over this area and just find the spots where those little flashing is sticking out, and just doesn't need much attention. Just kind of sand that down a bit just to smooth it out. And those burrs, the flashing comes right off. You get that on there. Okay. I think that looks good. So Disco Frog's talking about the frog mold tool and what that. And this is on YouTube. Disco Frog is one of my YouTube followers. And so what he's talking about is the frog mold tool is something that he is designing that's going to be freaking awesome, I think. And what that is it's going to be a kind of like the synth. So if you've, I don't know, for those of you who don't know, this is a synth, which is what you use to create keycaps. It's got basically, this is the bottom of a cherry profile keycap. And so you mold you put your clay or whatever on this spot here on the top. And you make your keycap on that, and then you end up making you pull that off and you can make the keycap itself. So like, that's how you can ensure that the keycap will actually fit on top of a switch. So this was actually made with the synth. So you can see, here, let me see if I can line it up correctly. It goes this way. So I actually made this on the synth. That is the wrong direction. No, is it? No, it's the right direction. So that's how that one was made. It actually started its life on the synth, just like that. You can see it fits in there. And then, you know, you put that in the oven basically and bake it, this clay, and then you can take that off, and then you can, that's my master. And that's what all of these came from. And so his system is going to be very similar to that, but I think with a little bit more, it's going to have a little easier to use. That's not actually not, that the synth is not hard to use. It's just, it definitely requires like some practice getting it right. And you know, you can only really make one keycap at a time with it. And my idea, what I'm preferring, is to be able to make more than one keycap at a time, because I'm more into mass production. I don't do super fancy things like some keycap makers do, where they do things like double shots. That's where you have like 2 different types of resin in 2 different spots. I might do that someday. I have plans for it, but right now I'm just kind of focused on seeing if anyone even wants to buy my keycaps. So that's what I'm focusing on right now. And it seems like people will buy them. I got some interest. Anyway. Yeah, so Disco Frog is saying the one he's designing can make 4 keycaps at a time, which is great, because then that's basically the beginning of mass production. All right, so this one was actually really clean. This is probably a direct mold. This is a direct descendant of my master mold. So, very clean. No burrs. So when we make our mold, this one should be pretty good. Okay, this one, again, this one is actually one of my master molds. This one's really clean. Just gonna sand the bottom down. I think we're gonna be able to make. A 12. I'm gonna be able to make a 12-piece mold. That'll be good. Oh, and he's saying you can make that without sprues, or you can keep the sprues, which is good, because right now. When you'll see what I mean, like in the second part of mold making, there's a thing called a sprue you need to put in, which is the way that you can keep the, it's kind of where the resin ends up going. It goes through the sprues. It's where air escapes, and it's where it kind of, you pull the mold out, and then there's like a sprue hole, or you can pour the resin into the sprue hole, I mean, which is what I do. So this one looks pretty good. Just maybe a little bit of stuff that needs removed from the bottom, but other than that, this one's actually pretty good shape. it's got some burrs though. If I can get that off of there cleanly. Your angle cutters, these things are, I mean, essential for keyboard design, for keyboard work, and for keycap kind of design stuff as well. It's very, very useful. Looks like, yeah, and this one's actually really good as well. It's got a little bit of stuff that needs removed from it, and then we are good. Actually, we can probably make more than 12 from these higher quality ones I've got here. So we'll see how I feel about that. Thing is, with 12, it's easier to make a box from it because it's a square. Or I should say it's easier to make a more compact mold from 12 than for something like 14 or 10, because I can do 4x3. All right. Yeah, this one's not good enough. Okay, so now, since we have plenty of room, we can do pick of the litter, basically. Only the best. Okay, now let's go in through and make sure that we only choose the most perfect ones. That one's good. That's good. That one's good. Yeah. This one's good. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of lining up the ones that I know for sure are absolutely top quality. And then we'll go from there. Oh. That one's good. This one has a little bit. Okay, so I think in terms of ones that have the best quality, and I can use the master as well. The master keycap, which of course would have the best quality out of all of them. So we can use this one as well. It's got some resin in it right now. And it looks like it has a little nick on the inside of it, probably from something. I don't remember seeing that before. So we're not going to use that. I don't want to use, even though it's the master, it's got that tiny little nick on the bottom that could cause an issue. And I could fill it with some more clay, but I just don't have time to do that tonight. All right, so there we go. There's our 12. We have enough to make 16. I could do it with these ones, but those ones aren't nearly as good as these ones are. So we're going to go with 12. And really, 12's enough. 12 is plenty. So the next thing we're going to do is make our mold block. And this is the platform thing that I was talking about. So platform, typically what I do is I'm using, this is like thick mounting board, like what you'd use for like mounting paintings or pictures. So it's about 1.5 millimeters thick, and it's really sturdy. So that's why I like using this. But I also have, if you saw what I had here, this is for bookbinding. So this is like super thick cardboard for bookbinding. So we could probably use this as our platform material. Because what's going to happen is we're going to put these on here. We're going to space them out. So we're going to have them like kind of some space in between each one. Like so. So we're going to have some space in between each one. We're going to line them up in a grid like this. Okay, just like that. And then you can see how they're all lined up in a grid. It'll be more perfect when I do it, when I actually lay them down. And then we'll cut the edges off here and here. And so it's like a little platform, and then, or a little space for them, and then we'll have it sitting on top of it, of a box that I'm going to build. And that will make our mold. But the reason why I would want to use this thicker board is because when you apply pressure in the pressure pot to make the mold, this little platform's hollow. So if you make it from thinner or weaker materials, when that pressure hits, that the silicone kind of seeps into pretty much everything, and it will, when that pressure hits, if there's air trapped in there, the flat kind of surface will cave like that, and you'll end up with a weird depression, and it doesn't work very well. One of my first molds that I made had that problem, and it just ended up making low quality results pretty much every time I used the mold. So I want to avoid that. The other way of getting around that would be to use a piece of wood. So I could use something like a thick piece of wood, which I don't really have a good sample of right now to show you, but a thicker piece of wood. Oh, here, I can use this. This is a good example. So I could use something like this, which is an inch thick pine, as my mold, like, the actual sit them on top of that. And that would work really well, but I don't have this cut. I don't have it cut to size, so I would need to get my saw out and cut it to size, and I just don't have time for that right now. So let me see in this. I might have a small piece. Yeah, I suppose I could use... Actually, this might work. Problem is, you want the mold box that it's sitting on top of to be pretty thick, so I'd want to use 2 pieces of this, because it's not very thick. Because the deeper that little lip is, the easier it is for us to make the actual mold itself. So this would be okay if I doubled it up. If I just cut this in half or cut it to shape and doubled it up, it would be about an inch thick. This is medium density fiberboard, so this is a pretty good material to make it with. Now I'm thinking about it, that actually might be a good choice. We could use hot glue around the edges to seal it, and that would actually be a pretty good material. It's nice and dense. Yeah, this actually could be a good material to use. So let's think about that. One of the other things that I've been thinking about is usually when you make a mold, you do a key in it, or not a key, but a registration key. So, and that's usually what these are. So you see how I have these little holes here? These are to help line up the mold, so when you close it up, those kind of all line up in their specific holes, and it's to prevent you from basically putting the mold in backwards or sideways or anything else. And it kind of helps hold the mold in place. But when you make it with these lips like this, you kind of don't really need that as much. It's not as important anyway. So really, we don't really need that. But you still want to have it just in case. And you can do other things to to make it so you don't really need that. You could do something where, say like these two kind of go off to the side like that. And you wouldn't end up confusing that, because there's no way you'd be able to fit them in any other way. Another thing to do would be to create so we'd have the mold like this, and then there might be like a divot right here. And so there's only one direction that can actually fit in. So we might just do that instead to help shape it. And we could do that with this Doing it with the box like this makes it a little more difficult. So let me think about this here. If we line them up on here, like so, and I can just get my saw, my coping saw, and cut it with that. I'd need to do 2 of them. So that would take some time, because the coping saw does take time, because you're basically just sitting there with a handsaw, just cutting it with a handsaw. And it's not going to be absolutely perfect. So there will be some gluing and stuff that needs to happen there. But what I would do is I would basically draw the line here and here, and then I would do a divot. Right about here, I do like a little divot inside. And I'll kind of draw a little diagram what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah, Disco, you can hear my cat. He's being a jerk. Okay, so if we had our box like this, and our keycaps were in there, what I would do on the platform is I'd make a divot kind of like this. So that way there's only one direction that this thing can be put in, so you can't get confused. But, yeah. Should I just go with the medium density fiberboard then? It'd be faster. Well, it'd be about the same because I have to build a box still. So let me think of things that could be difficult if I do it that way. Not really much. There's not really much of a downside to doing that. Yeah, Disco, that is Loki. Loki is a total terror, and he's the worst cat ever. But I love him. Okay, well, let's just do that. Let me get my handsaw, which is, I was just using it the other night, so it's hereby, there it is. So this is a coping saw. This is what we're going to use. 3x4 instead of 4x3. Well, that's the same thing. Oh, you see line up like this. 4x3 instead of 3x4. You're talking about like that? So it's make one cut here and then another cut. Then we could space these out a little more. The box will be a little large. Yeah, so we could do it that way. The box will just kind of be large because we'd be wasting a little silicone going that direction. I actually have a thinner piece that we might be able to use. Yeah, we got this one as well. So we wouldn't be wasting as much silicone, because I don't like to waste silicone just because it's kind of expensive. The silicone I use, Moldstar 30, it's not like it's so expensive that I can't afford to, you know, use large amounts of it or anything, but it is, you know, pricey, and I haven't sold any of these keycaps yet either, so, you know, it's kind of a risky venture for me in general. But this will work way better. This is a much better piece. So yeah, we'll use this piece instead. There we go. Only need to make 2 cuts now. Okay, so what I will do now is I will measure this out and make sure that we have enough material on both ends. So we're looking at about, I think this piece is 11.5 inches. Yeah, 11.5 inches. So we want to make sure that we stay at around 5 inches, which is plenty. We got plenty of room for that. 5.5 would be good. And that gives us room to make our little divot. So, yeah, Disco Frog, 40 bucks for 2 liters of Moldstar 30, but I actually buy... So this is what I buy. I buy these bigger I buy these larger buckets. I don't know how many liters that is. But yeah, I buy them, and I buy much more high volume because I use it a lot. And I just got mold star all over my hands, and I need to clean it. Yeah, it is everywhere. Ah, oh no. Okay. There we go. My friend used my rubbing alcohol that I use usually to clean things, and she put it somewhere, and I have no idea where she put the bottle. Because I need that bottle. It has a different tip on it. This one, the tip on it this is large, so it just ends up making a mess. So a lot of it comes out. Yeah, I'll find it later. It's here somewhere. So, all right. So let's measure this out. 5 inches. I think 5 inches is good. It gives us a little room for a divot. 5.5 will give us plenty of room. So let's go with 5.5 inches. So if our 5.5 inch mark is right here, there we go. God, there's still some of this mold star on my hands. Ugh, it's like all over the place. All right. Move some stuff out of the way here. I gotta stay caffeinated. It's kind of a late stream for me, so normally don't stream this late. All right, so actually, if we do this right, if we just did it, if it's at 11.5, and if we did, man, I am drawing a total blank. 5 3/4, then we would have exactly half, and then we wouldn't really need to worry. We'd make one cut and done. And I like that. That's much easier. So we'll do that. Right? Is my math correct? 5 3/4. 11.5, yeah. 5 3/4. So now we get our blade together for our coping saw. This thing is the biggest pain in the butt to put together. I hate using it. All right, so 5 3/4, we're gonna cut that. And then we can glue those two halves together, and we'll have ourselves a very nice platform to build these molds on. And we can reuse it. So that's another beautiful part of it. Just reuse it and make other molds from it as well. Come on. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna saw this down here. So it's gonna be a little loud, maybe. Last time I used this, I was using it on like some plywood. And man, it was loud. Okay. So don't mind me while I saw this. I'm gonna be off screen a little bit here. And if it's loud, I will turn the mic off or something. Because it might be. actually not loud at all. It is very dusty though. There we go. Okay. And as is the case with usually with hand-done stuff, it's not quite perfect. So once we glue this together, we'll glue the two halves together and then we'll sand it down so that it is perfectly square on both sides. That's the problem with the coping saw, is it doesn't quite... It's not quite perfect every time, but it's close. And it's close enough that we can actually use this. And that's what we're after. So let's get that glue going. And we're just gonna use hot glue. I could use wood glue, but then it would need to dry and that takes too long. So we're just gonna use hot glue. So while that's heating up, I'm gonna drink some water. Actually, I'm gonna clean up the dust here real quick, so I'm going to mute. There we go. Just wanted to make sure it was less dust. So I'm always cleaning up the dust after I do this because dust will get pretty much everywhere, especially some of this material gets all over the place, and then it just gets into the resin and you end up having problems with the resin. We don't want that to happen. So clean up as much dust as you can. Okay, so hot glue, it's going to take its time. Take its time to heat up. All right. So that'll take some time. So what else is going on tonight? Anyone else having anything cool? This is really all I got going on. Do this, do some relaxing. Because basically as soon as I get this mold done, then that's all I have planned for the stream tonight. I don't really have much else going on. I kind of need a night to relax. I'm a little busy. Hot glue takes forever to warm up. And I think I showed y'all. We got this is my B stock keycaps that I've already made. So this is these are all the keycaps that I'm going to be selling, or these ones are actually probably going to go up for raffle. I think these will be in a raffle I'm going to do, or a giveaway, I should say, but pretty much just a raffle. And then this is the bag of caps that are going to go for sale. I need to do another once over on them and make sure they're all clean and high quality, but these ones are the ones that go up for sale pretty soon. A couple of months. There's like 200 something keycaps there. So that'll be nice. And I haven't decided on a price for them yet. I don't know. I really don't. It's kind of hard to choose a price for me. I don't know what people would find value, like what value they would place on them. So it's kind of hard for me to make that choice, saying it should be this much or it should be that much. Same thing with these tentacle ones. I don't really know what price to set them at. So I'll probably decide that somewhat soon. I haven't quite made my mind up yet. Some people are saying like $10 or $15, between $10 and $15. So yeah, I don't know. Oh, and the glue got too cold too quick, so it already hardened. Jeez. This glue sucks. Well, we could do this another way too. We can just use super glue. It's actually, now I think about it, super glue might be the better way of doing it. So let's just do that. Bonds faster and it will, I think, work a little bit better. I gotta clean all this cold glue off of here. All right. So we're gonna use glue or nails. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any nails. I don't have any nails that would go, that are small enough for a project like this. All the nails I have are for construction. They're construction nails, so they are much, much larger. Okay. So we'll just go ahead and oh, whoops. Wow, there was like definitely, that's weird. And as the case is with super glue / cyanoacrylate glue, is you got to be careful because it bonds instantly with skin. So if you're dealing with like this, where I'm dealing with a large amount of that glue, you want to make sure that you're going to wear gloves, because you can get your fingers stuck together, or, you know, whatever. Your fingers stuck to whatever material you're working with, and you don't want that. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that we're not going to get our fingers exposed. I'm usually pretty careful about that, but oh yeah, that's definitely bonded now. Okay. So now we've got these two halves bonded together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand this end down. You can kind of see it's not perfect. It's okay on these other sides, but that side definitely needs, and this one needs a little sanding too. So I'm going to sand those down. And actually, I should use a block sander for this, but right now I don't have a block sander. So we're just going to use... actually, I do have a block sander. It is in my closet in the other room. So I'll be right back. Well, I thought I had a block sander, but apparently I do not. So we can just use sandpaper that I've got. Yeah, because I would prefer to use a block sander, and I know I had one because I was using it for building another project. It might be under here. So many places to hide tools in the garage, and they all get used. Okay, I knew I had one. Looks like it got used a little bit. This is a 180 grit. So that should help. Sand that down. So the reason why I'm using a block sander is that a block sander will help keep the sides flat rather than trying to use it by like a hand, fingers and stuff. This will make it so it stays flat. Yeah, I don't know. This might not be gritty enough. It's almost there. The other option would be to use my electric sander, but that thing makes a lot of dust. So, wouldn't want to use it in here. Have to get it started in the other room. Yeah, we might have to go in the other room and use my regular sander, which is in... I'm not sure where it's at. My electric sander is probably in here. It is. Okay, I'm going to use my electric sander in the other room. So I will be off screen for a minute, but it will be very quick. And we can open the garage. Okay, be right back. Well, we got close. Got pretty close. I'm going to use a different type of sandpaper, maybe it should help. I think that sandpaper just doesn't have the cutting power that I need. So we'll use something a little more grit. Okay, there it goes. We got it. It is in. It's much smoother now, and it's all leveled out. So now our blocks are just right. Okay. The Kyle 48, 48, 48. What's going on? We just, so we're making some molds here. And what I was doing was sanding down the little platform I'm going to put the keycaps on. So that's where I was. So now we've got this block. And that will be perfect. Okay, so there we are. Man, this dust is everywhere. Okay, now we're ready. Oh, what's up, Wendy? And we also got Nigel or Ngial. How's it going? Yeah, so Wendy, what's up, man? So for those of you who are still on the channel or still watching, Wendy is part of. He's on the channel for the giveaway that I've been talking about. That's this giveaway right here. Enter if you haven't already. That is a giveaway for a keyboard that I painted. Okay, so the next thing we're doing here. So Wendy, since you haven't been here, you've probably never been to one of my streams. What I am doing right now is I am making a mold box for keycaps. And that is these keycaps right here, which I will be selling soon. But I need to start getting into mass production on these guys. So let's adjust the whoops. Let's adjust the properties here, do a video. Yeah, man, thanks for stopping by. I hope you stick around for a bit because we are going to be doing some fun stuff. All right, so now we got to get these on here. Lined up nicely. And then we'll glue them in place. And we'll make the rest of our mold box. I'm going to kind of leave this little side over here kind of open as the way of kind of showing it. The Kyle's saying I need to rock that handlebar mustache again. Yeah, so I actually have a problem with like facial hair. It didn't take me very long to grow that mustache, but man, it bothered me. I do not like the feel of facial hair on my own face. It really irritates me. So I had a really hard time growing that mustache because I just wanted to tear it off all the time. And this hot glue, we are running out, so we need some more. Need some more of this glue before it runs out. Okay. So now we just kind of go around the edges here with the hot glue, and we're going to glue it in place. So we just put a little around the edge here, just like this. And then find out where you're going to put it, press it down, hold it there for a few seconds, and then we'll go over with an X-Acto knife and we'll trim the edges off. And that's really all you got to do. Okay. So once we feel like we've gotten to a spot where that is stable, we will cut off the excess with our X-Acto knife. How do I get the base keycap? Well, I actually sculpted it from some clay. This is the original keycap, so I sculpted that. And then these are resin these are actually these are replications that I've already done. And so I'm just taking my replications, my best replications, and I'm going to go through and turn those into a master mold of a 12 keycap master mold for master production, or for mass production, I should say. And so that's this process here, what I'm doing right now. But this has been a long project in the making. I designed this keycap a couple months ago, and was kind of producing them in secret because I wasn't quite ready to show everyone what I was working on. Mainly just because I just didn't want to get people's hopes up on something that wasn't going to turn out. So I wanted to make sure that it matched my perfection, because I am kind of a perfectionist when it comes to this stuff. Most other things in my life, I am not a perfectionist at all, but when it comes to keycaps, I am absolutely a perfectionist, and so I don't like the idea of putting something out there that is going to be subpar, or that I personally wouldn't want to buy myself. And so I'm very much a perfectionist, much to some of my fans' chagrin, because then it takes me longer to produce things than perhaps most other people would. So yeah, that's that. So we got 1 down, or sorry, 2 down, 11 more to go. We just gotta trim off this excess here and then move on. And this is gonna work out very well. I think this was a good idea. Thanks for encouraging me to use a different material, because this is actually going to be very, very nice, and I can reuse it with other ones. And reuse this with other keycaps to make more molds. Maybe. I don't know how well, I guess we'll see how well the silicone takes to it, because silicone just tends to do weird stuff with all kinds of materials. So who knows? The silicone might do weird stuff to this. So who's this? Zero Super Stylin' Zero asks, "Are those scars on my left arm?" Yeah, actually, these are. Let me see if you can see. Kind of hard to see in this light, but those are actually brandings. I used to do a lot of body modification when I was younger. And so I've got brandings, I've got tattoos, I've got giant piercings. I've done quite a bit in my life. Not nearly as wild as I used to be, though. Now I just get tattoos, pretty much. My job, kind of job that I'm in, I'm a project manager, and I meet with a lot of like corporate clients, and so it's not really, it's kind of hard for me to get away with doing that stuff nowadays, just because my corporate clients, not all of them are like cool and understand, why I do the things I do, and so they get kind of weird. Close my garage door. So they get kind of weird about it. So I just don't really do that stuff anymore, as much as I might want to. Anyway, someday, if things continue to go well with my company, which they are going pretty well, it won't really matter, because I'll get up into a much more higher management position, and then I can kind of, decide what things I want to do. I won't be meeting with clients as much as I do right now. But I kind of like meeting with the clients. It's an interesting part of the job. And in my company, oh, well, that one didn't work out. That just came right off. All right, well, we got to redo this one. That one did not stick. This is one of the reasons why I hate hot glue, is it's very finicky. Also, I have pretty much the worst hot glue gun that has ever been manufactured. It is a total pain in the butt. Busy man, got lots of pokers in the fire. Yeah, I do a lot of stuff. I'm pretty busy in my personal life, very busy in my hobby life, obviously. Working on several projects, working on keyboard projects, working on professional projects. I mean, there's a lot going on in my life right now. So, I don't know. Trying to stay busy, trying to keep myself mentally occupied. I tend to struggle with depression, and so keeping myself busy, keeping my mind occupied is kind of important. It keeps me from sliding too far. So I try to mitigate that with interesting projects, which keyboards has been a huge thing for me in kind of controlling that. And then streaming actually was a major revelation to me, because I realized not only did I enjoy it, but apparently I'm good at it. I might not have a huge audience, but I do enjoy doing it. And people seem to enjoy watching my streams, so win-win. Yeah, I never really thought that I would like streaming. I'm trying to get into game streaming. I've done it a couple times, and I get some viewers, but it can be discouraging, obviously. I mean, everybody has that problem. Discouraging to do a stream and, you know, no one's actually watching and stuff. So it's kind of like, what am I doing? But I prefer doing these kind of creative streams and stuff. So I also do painting and stuff, so painting and illustration. So I'm hoping that soon-ish I will get back into doing my painting and illustration streams. And those ones will be interesting because I really like creative streams. Right now my creative outlet is my keyboards. So creative outlet for keyboards is cool, but it would be nice to do a creative outlet of my actual illustrations and stuff, because people seem to like the work I do. And it'd be cool to do those on stream and get people's live feedback. All right, so we're moving right along. Got 4 down. We have 8 more to go. But we're making very good progress. Oh, I should trim that before I put this guy down. So all I'm doing right now is basically what happens is when I press these down, a little bit of excess glue kind of falls off to the side. So all I'm doing is going in and cutting that excess glue off the edges, because we don't want that on there for when we do the mold making. When we actually get the resin or the actual silicone in there, we want that to be as clean as possible. And actually it is 7:30 right now. Kind of the way things are going right now, we might not get to actually pouring the silicone tonight. Because I still have to make the base of the box. This is the platform, and then I build a box around this. And that takes some time. So I might not get to that tonight. I might have to do that another night. Maybe tomorrow. Because it does take time, and I still haven't eaten dinner yet. So I kind of want to do a little bit of this, and then we'll call it a night. It'll be a short stream. But I got a late start. Because I got pulled into a late meeting. So, yeah, actually, Kyle, I stream on YouTube, Twitch, and Mixer. So I'm actually streaming on Twitch right now. There's a couple people who are interacting with me on Twitch. So I stream to both. stream to 3 different platforms because that gets me pretty good exposure, and I get a different type of I get a very different type of audience for each different platform I choose to stream to. So the YouTube guys, they tend to be more of my keyboard folks. Some Twitch folks, they do are some more of like my gaming friends who I've made over the years. They watch me on Twitch. And then Mixer, obviously, that's much more of gaming stuff, much more gaming oriented. So yeah, I stream to all those platforms. I'm not sure what category I'm streaming to right now. I've been keeping it on IRL, but I think I switched at one point to something else, and I might have forgotten to change it back. So that could explain why I'm getting lower view counts right now, because I might be saying, oh, I'm playing Stardew Valley, and I'm not. So I don't remember. Speaking of which, Stardew Valley. Haven't played that in a while. I love that game. I know they're making a multiplayer version of it. All right, there we go. Hot glue, you are my nemesis. Ah! So many little issues with it. The Kyle says I'm multitasking hard. Well, actually, I use restream.io, and it does all of the streaming to multiple platforms for me. So I'm actually very lazy, and it does all the work, which is awesome because I don't want to do all that work, which is good because that lets me focus on what I want to focus on, which is just making the content. Kyle says, fun game, gets boring though. Yeah, I played quite a bit of it when it first came out, and I got a little bit bored of it. Not super quick, but it was definitely like, I like this game, it's a lot of fun. But I played it when it first came out, so it didn't really have as much content as it does now. But I really liked it. I liked the relaxing bit of it was really kind of the biggest thing for me, is it was very, very relaxing. And it came out during a really stressful time in my life. I was working a shit ton of hours. And so my friend Dave and I were playing it all the time. Obviously, it wasn't multiplayer back then, but we would hang out in the same room and we'd watch Netflix or whatever while we both played Stardew Valley, and kind of a little competitive, trying to see who could make the biggest farm first. So that was kind of fun. But now they're adding a multiplayer mode to it. And I don't know if you guys have played... what's the name of that game? Drawing a blank now. No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky has a big expansion coming out. I loved that game when it first came out. A lot of people, shat on it because it didn't, meet their weird expectations or whatever that they had hyped themselves up to be. But I liked it a lot. And it has gotten continually better over the last 2 years. And they have a huge expansion coming out really soon that they are going to be enabling multiplayer in. So that's going to be really cool. That's another one of those kind of, it gets boring if you don't really have you have to be able to set your own goals in that game, which is kind of my way of doing things. I usually do kind of start playing a game and then I get into this one goal or something that I want to try to do. which may or may not actually be a goal in the game itself. I do that a lot for like Skyrim and stuff, where I'm like, I want to fill an entire bedroom with troll skulls. And so I'll just go around and collect all the troll skulls I possibly can. And that to me is entertaining. Okay, we are just moving right along on this. Oh, come on. Come on. I'm like working in these very tight quarters, and I'm trying to not bump the keycaps because sometimes the hot glue will then dislodge. And so I got to be really careful. The Kyle says he didn't like the end of No Man's Sky. Yeah, the end was very kind of eh. Did you play it since they made the latest patches to add like kind of a little bit of a different ending? Slash, you know, not different ending, but they added like whole other storyline to it. I played that other storyline and I liked it. It was pretty cool. And supposedly they're adding even more to that storyline in the next patch. So that'll be cool. But I also read that he is focusing a lot, or that the team is focusing a lot on building tools to make their tools better, is one way of putting it. So basically they're focusing on multiplayer, but they're also building these tools so they can push out more content soon. And the reason why they're doing that is because they are going to start releasing more content much faster. But the new content, I think after this patch, the new content coming out is not going to be free. So it's going to be in the form of like paid expansions or paid story expansions. That's just a rumor I had read, though. So take that with a grain of salt. But, you know, they did sell a lot of copies of it, and they're doing pretty well in terms of, you know, considering as much bad press as they had gotten, they're still, you know, holding on and making a lot of stuff. And they say they did fine. So, yeah, I would say, the Kyle, I would say, or I'm just going to call you Kyle. So Kyle, I would say play through it again. It's definitely different. Because they added so much more to it this time around, and since you already have it, if you don't have to pay for it, so just play it again, and you'll notice that they added a lot more content to it. A lot more content, like 40 hours worth of content. But I mean, content meaning like they added more story stuff to it, and it's not. I guess it's not content. It's more like storyline. So you still have to go and do stuff. It's not like, you know, these missions like you might get in other games or something. It is still repetitive stuff, but they did add new mechanics and stuff. You can get yourself a freighter. I actually just bought a freighter that is huge, and it's like a roving base. They also added the ability to own your own base, so you can build your own base and add stuff to it, and you know, they really did add a lot of stuff. You can get these cool like all-terrain vehicles to drive around planets on now. Those are a lot of fun. They added some like kind of trading mechanics. So you can trade with people on these like on the ships and stuff now. Or not trip. You go to like the stations and you can like stock up and go to other things. Oh, Tefram, what is going on? Yeah, it has been a while. How you doing, man? Yeah, I haven't actually been streaming that much. That's why you haven't seen me around. I kind of got caught up in work and really didn't have much time to stream. So that's why you haven't seen me. But I'm trying to stream more often now. Now that things are a little calmer and I have a better grip on how much time I have per week. This one's going to be a bit of a short stream. I'm just going to finish this up, and then I'm going to call it a night because it's like 8 o'clock or 7:30 here, so I've got a lot to do. I gotta eat dinner and all that. But I will probably do another stream tomorrow where I finish this portion up. This is fun, but I still have to build the bottom of the box and then mix the silicone and pour the silicone in, and then fire up the air compressor and all that. And the fear I have is that by the time that I finish making the box and pouring the silicone, that it's going to be like kind of late. And I try not to turn my compressor on after 9 o'clock because it's just so loud. And I have neighbors and stuff that they never said anything about it, but I don't want to be rude. And I try not to stream past 9 o'clock too because I'm talking in my garage and they live right above my garage. And I just don't want to irritate them. I just found, like, trying to be somewhat friendly. But like I said, they've never said anything about it, but I mean, they live right above my garage. They've got to hear me talking late at night. Probably wondering what kind of weirdo I am. What kind of weirdo talks in his garage to himself? Nah, just kidding. They're pretty young. I think they're in their, like, late 20s, maybe. So I'm sure they understand that I'm streaming. I just want to irritate them. I want to have good relationships with my neighbors so that they don't do weird stuff. They don't think that I'm a jerk. Okay, we are almost done. We got 2 more to go, and then we'll call it a night. It's looking pretty good. This will be nice. I am very curious to see how the silicone reacts to this this MDF, though, because it is definitely a different material. And then tomorrow we'll do the mold. We'll actually pour the silicone, and we'll make our first. Hopefully by the end of the week, we'll be able to do our first resin casting from this mold. And that will be exciting, because then we'll be in full production, baby. Which, that is going to be cool. I think these are going to sell decently well. My tentacle keycaps. I posted them up on Reddit and got the usual Reddit snarky responses about them, so I don't know how well they're really going to sell, because it's kind of hard to get a good interest check from a bunch of people who just want to be jerks. But I did get some interest before for them when I had kind of done a sneak peek of them. There was a couple people who were like, actually, I would buy those. So I can't let myself be discouraged by internet trolls. But sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes it's very difficult to say, that guy's just being a troll. But a lot of people really liked him. The main complaint people had was like, how do I type on that? It's going to poke my finger. And I didn't, like trying to explain to people, it's like, well, it's an Artisan. You don't really type on them. Like, that would be a bad idea. I think it would be a bad idea to try to type on them. Okay. We are almost done. We got one more to do. Yeah, everybody's always salty on Reddit. Especially in the mechanical keyboards community, like, there are so many people who are just absolute troll masters. And, like, that's, like, all they do is just, like, shit post. And shit on everybody else's posts as well. So it's like, I don't really trust the Reddit opinions that much because of the fact that half of the time it's just someone being a jerk. And I just don't trust them. We'll see how it goes when I actually put them up for sale. I think they'll sell decently well. I think they're unique enough that people will still go for them. All right, there we go. That is all of them in place on the board. So now, kind of what we're going to end up doing is we'll build the next part of the box. We'll build the outside box, basically, that goes around it. So it'll be like a plate on the bottom here. So it'll have like a little backing thing, and then it'll have walls that go around this, and then we'll pour the silicone into that, and that will be the mold. And we'll be making 12 of these keycaps at a time. Tefram says he is going to try to do wood carved or inlay cases. That's a freaking awesome idea. Yeah, inlay cases could be really cool, especially if you know how to do inlay, which I know how to do it, but I've never done it. And it could be very cool, but I know it's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of skill. And that is a skill that I do have no time to learn. I mean, I'm still fumbling along doing resin casting. Nowhere near the master levels of someone like Hungerwork Studios or some of those other guys who've been around it longer than I have. Okay, well there we go, folks. We are all set. Just one more time, I'm going to give you guys a shout out to join my friend Carly's. This is my friend Carly's giveaway for a keyboard that I designed, or that I painted. It's a really cool keyboard. It's a K-type. I actually have it right here if you want to see it. So here it is. This is the K-type keyboard that I painted. I got this, I want to see. Hold on. Wait, what angle is this thing shooting? There we go. It's got a fork knife kind of design to it. It's a TKL. It's a K-type board, so it does have RGB lighting, which I will show you here real fast. It's kind of hard to show you though, because the cable doesn't stretch all the way, but you can see it's got this RGB lighting on it. It looks really good, but I recommend you join it. Join the giveaway for that. It is going to be for another 30 days. Yeah, so join up, and people who are already subscribed to my channel, you guys get 2 automatic entries. So I recommend going just for that. Anyway, thanks for you guys tuning in. Tomorrow I will probably be on a little bit earlier than I was tonight, but I'll get on and we'll do the other half of this mold, and then maybe later on this week, maybe Friday or this weekend, we'll do the final part of the mold, and then I'll be able to start doing mass production on Monday or Tuesday. So thanks again for stopping by. I hope you guys had a good time, and keep an eye out for my channel. Check out my Twitter, and yeah, so you can see when I go on. So